Hey guys, my name is Jaden, and I'm a senior at Clark High School here in Las Vegas. I'm here to talk to you guys about vaping and why knowing the facts about teen vaping is so important. So, just to start off, what do you know about vaping? Take a second and think about what you think vaping is, and if you know anyone who has vaped before. Now, at my high school, I saw a lot of students vape, and I used to ask myself, why does so many more kids vape than smoke? It's because teens don't know the facts on teen vaping. Teens understand why smoking is dangerous. I mean, we all know that smoking causes cancer. However, we don't all know why vaping is dangerous and whether or not vaping causes cancer and what effects that it has. Now, you might be surprised to know that 1 in 10 middle schoolers your age vapes and 1 in 4 high schoolers vapes. That means that as you get into high school, the chance that you will start vaping increases by a lot. That's why I'm here today. I want to teach you about the dangers of teen vaping before high school, so that if you're ever offered a vape or if you have a friend who vapes, you'll know the truth. Now, to learn why vaping is dangerous, you first have to understand how a vape works. So here's what's in a vape. First, there's the battery. The energy from the battery is used to heat up a liquid pod. The liquid from the pod is heated into a gas or a vapor that the person vaping breathes in. Now, why do kids our age vape? Well, it turns out that there are three main reasons. The first is really simple. Teenagers are curious. Vaping companies like Juul know that, so they try to make their device look really nice, easy, and not at all scary or intimidating. The whole point is to make you feel comfortable with the vape. Vape companies know that if you really think about the consequences, you won't vape. So they try to make it look fun and ignore the fact that the whole point of a vape is to breathe in chemicals. Now, teens also vape because friends and family do it, and they think that that makes it cool and acceptable. When people around them vape, they want to try it out, and that feeling is natural. I mean, everybody feels like that. The problem is that while vaping might seem easy and not that important, in reality, it can put you in danger and make your life a lot more difficult. Now, the third reason is the reason that I get really often when I ask the kids that I know who vape why they vape, and that is the flavors. Vape companies use tons of artificial flavors to make vapes smell really good. While I know these flavors might seem really great, in reality, the tastes are rarely what they advertise, and the flavorings are artificial chemicals that can cause serious diseases. Now, these are the most common reasons why middle and high schoolers start vaping, but there's one reason they keep vaping, and that is nicotine. Nicotine is an extremely dangerous chemical. The way it works is like this. When you do something good, such as getting a good grade on a test or scoring a goal in a soccer game, your brain receives positive, happy signals. Nicotine makes the body do this in an unnatural way, forcing your body to receive more and more positive signals. As it gets more of these signals, your brain learns to stop feeling them as strongly. So you have to start vaping more and more to get the same feeling that you had before. The worst part about vaping is that it takes away your ability to choose. Nicotine controls your brain, so that even if you're not realizing it or thinking about it, it's causing you to say or do things that you normally wouldn't do. Now, I know there's a couple of you who vape who are thinking, this isn't true. I vape and I don't really feel addicted. So here's what I'm challenging you to do. If you vape, try not vaping for 5 full days, a full school week, and see how you feel. See if you're thinking about vaping without realizing, or if it's harder than you thought, or if the first thing you want to do when the 5 days are up is vape. I also know that there's a lot of kids who vape every once in a while, such as once or twice a week, and those are the people who it's hardest to convince because they don't think they have a problem. But here's the thing. Yes, when you vape once or twice a week, you're putting yourself at risk to become addicted in the future. And yes, you're starting bad habits, but that's not even the worst part. Recent studies have shown that vaping, even once, can cause weakness in your blood vessels right after. So if you're vaping consistently once or twice a week for a long period of time, you're not letting your blood vessels heal, and that damage might just start to add up. And that's just what we know about. There's many effects that vaping, even every once in a while, can have that we don't know about and that we'll likely find out in the future. And those are just the problems that you'd have if you weren't addicted. If you did become addicted, it could really transform your life. Now, when you vape and you get those positive signals in your brain starts depending on you vaping, just like it depends on food and water for energy. If you decide you want to quit because you're worried about the effects, it can be really difficult. Your brain craves that nicotine, and everything that it does is just to make you want to vape more and more. It causes you to feel sick to your stomach, it can give you a fever, headaches, and really, everything that it does is to make sure that you don't stop. That's why the easiest way to stop vaping is to never start in the first place. Now, There's a question that a lot of people often ask. Do all vapes have nicotine? Is this something that I should even worry about? What I mean by this is, do the brands of vaping that teens are most likely to use, do they have nicotine? Well, the answer is yes. If you don't believe me, we can check on some of the most popular brands. Juul, Enjoy, Puff Bar. These are some of the biggest vapes that lots of teens are using. And guess what? Every single one of the products produced by this company has nicotine. The addiction problems that I was talking about earlier, these are just some of the problems that can cause that, some of the companies that can cause that. If a friend tells you that their vape, that their Juul, their Puff Bar doesn't have nicotine, you can just do a quick Google search and you'll find out that it isn't true. Now, vaping can be really risky. Nicotine is just the start of a long list of different chemicals that you breathe in when you vape. There's also heavy metals like lead, cancer-causing chemicals, and artificial flavorings. Now, a lot of this stuff isn't recommended for you to vape, but it's technically allowed for you to eat. The problem with vaping is that you're not just eating these chemicals, you're heating them up to really high temperatures and applying them directly onto your organs. If that doesn't sound good, there's some good reasons why. When you do that, you can actually scar and damage your lungs in permanent ways. Your lungs aren't meant to have metals and chemicals directly on them, so vaping can really cause a lot of damage. Now, one thing that vaping companies like to say is that vaping is healthier than smoking. So let's walk through some of the problems with smoking and see if the same problems exist with vaping. First, which do you think is more addictive, vaping or smoking? Well, it's based off nicotine, and guess what? A single Juul pod has the same amount of nicotine as a pack of cigarettes. Now, imagine that you had a friend who is smoking a pack of cigarettes a day. You'd be really worried about them, right? Vaping a Juul pod a day is exactly the same. Second, the risk of cancer. Now, all of us know that smoking causes cancer, but does vaping cause cancer? The answer is yes, but it's a little bit more complicated. We know that vaping causes multiple different types of cancers, but we don't know more than that. People were smoking for a really long time before they found out about the fact that it causes cancer. Scientists haven't had time to show all the ways that vaping is dangerous. What they have found is still really frightening. And the third problem with smoking and vaping is lung disease. Smoking is really bad for your lungs because of two reasons. You're breathing in extremely hot air directly into your lungs, and there's tar in that air. While vaping has the first problem, breathing in hot air, it doesn't have the second one. Instead of tar, there's vitamin E. Now, vitamin E doesn't sound that bad, and you can eat it without being worried. You can take it as a vitamin. Now, the problem is when you expose it directly onto your organs. At that point, it can cause severe irritation and scarring. Now, e-cigarettes have diseases that are only caused by them and not even caused by smoking, like popcorn lung, which is another really scary lung disease. However, one of the worst things that you can do, possibly worse than normal vaping, is use a wax pen. Now, wax pens are like vapes, except instead of breathing in a nicotine liquid, you're breathing in a waxy substance that might be made of marijuana. Now, I'm not going to get into marijuana because the real problem about wax pens isn't just the marijuana. The problem is that you're not putting a leaf into a wax pen. You don't actually know what you're putting into it. You're hoping that that scary chemical wax is actually marijuana. And if you're unlucky and it's not, you may just end up like one of the teens who over the past 2 years has been hospitalized or killed. Just because the wax pen looks legit, made by a company that looks real, has a nice shiny outside and all that kind of stuff, that doesn't mean that it's regulated. And if it's not regulated, you have no idea what's in it. So before you vape, you should ask yourself, am I feeling lucky? Am I willing to risk this? Do I trust that the wax I'm about to vape is made of marijuana and not cheap chemicals? Because when you use a wax pen, that's the gamble you're making. You don't know whether or not what you're putting in there is marijuana, and what could be in there could very well kill you. Now, before I finish this presentation, I want to remind you of the 3 most important things to remember. Now, the first, most vapes have nicotine, and all vapes that teens are using today have nicotine. When people who vape tell you that what they're vaping isn't nicotine, they're almost always just wrong. The biggest vape companies have nicotine, and nicotine causes severe addiction. Second, vaping isn't necessarily healthier than smoking. When you vape, you're putting metals and chemicals directly into your lungs, and they can get really dangerous lung diseases. Even worse than that, you don't know how vaping might affect you. I mean, vaping just hasn't been around for long enough. In 20 to 30 years, scientists will be studying the teens who vape now to find out just how much it increases your chances to get fatal cancers. We just don't know yet. And third, and almost most importantly, do not vape marijuana. You don't know what's in the wax that you're vaping. Wax pens have been found to have antifreeze, rat poison, and other chemicals that literally kill portions of your lungs. So while you might have mixed opinions on marijuana, vaping marijuana is not the same thing at all. All right, everyone. Thank you so much for listening and participating. If you have any questions or comments, make sure to write them down onto the form. Thank you.